During late September, in a secluded part of the Russian wilderness, an explosion happened that would affect the area for decades to come. This is the Kyshtym disaster. Tasked with solving this great issue was a team composed of Brendan Henry and Levi Ratliff. Brendan Henry is an environmental and wilderness expert from Moscow. His primary focus during this exploration was the environmental and radioactive effects of the disaster, as well as the events that led to these. Levi Ratliff is a safety inspector from St. Petersburg. He mainly worked in the factory setting to decode how exactly this disaster could have occurred. With this explosion decimating the reactor and not leaving much to determine what the cause of this disaster was, our team was left to discover what actually happened on that fateful night.
The explosion didn't leave much left, or at least in the general radius of the blast, so that's kind of where we started. From when we got to the reactor, I could definitely tell it wasn't exactly kept in the best condition. Even so, we could rule out a few things like natural disaster or some freak accident.
So, the team started there, looking into the cause of this explosion. Meanwhile, there were some unforeseen consequences of this disaster.
One thing we noticed while looking into the explosion was that the town was getting infected due to the harmful radioactive material. This material was launched into the air from the explosion, but we found that the townspeople already had issues with radiation-related sickness. So our team took a look into some of the waste disposal methods, and we found out that the plant had been dumping waste into the nearby river, which was infecting the town with harmful levels of radioactivity.
Yeah, we've always had a problem with disease before, but never like this. Us town folks knew there was some operation going on, but we really could not figure out what the cause was. It really baffled us, but now all that radioactive stuff was thrown up into the air, and it made it so much easier to see what was going on.
While this information was terrible news, we now had a small lead as to where the problem could have originated.
We kind of use this fault tree as a way to rule out the unnecessary and unrealistic options. So it was kind of split up into these three main trees: this equipment issue, the personnel issue, and the government cover-up. As you can see, we've kind of narrowed down some of the options as we get further down into the fault tree. Now, as you can see over here, we have provided some additional information in our project, like kind of the root cause analysis of why this disaster happened, and then some more information about the plant and the actual disaster itself.
Using our fault tree, we could eliminate some of the more ludicrous options at the beginning. This way, we could really narrow down our root cause of the accident to two probable causes. A reckless contamination of water prior to the disaster was a good reason to start questioning the employees.
As the team narrowed down their options on the possible causes, they interviewed some of the employees to get a broader perspective on the issue.
After talking with many of the workers at the plant, we learned that the people overseeing it had very little precautionary measures put into place to prevent disasters such as this one. Workers didn't even know the correct procedures when it came to following safety protocols. As a safety inspector like myself, it is hard to imagine, but also disturbing to think about.
Even though the workers weren't prepared to deal with a problem like this, it couldn't be the only cause. There had to be something that started the chain of events that led to the explosion and the release of all the radioactive materials in the first place.
The waste must have exploded due to the way the toxic radioactive material was released into the atmosphere. There had to be some reason the workers would let the waste explode.
So, the team went back to the workers and discovered they didn't even know the waste was having an issue, and that was the reason it must have exploded. It must have been a compounding problem starting with the faulty piece of equipment inside the reactor.
So what was our team's solution to this root cause of the nuclear explosion? We concluded that the most likely set of actions was a faulty sensor in the reactor room and poor safety codes.
This allowed the waste to rise in temperature until a critical point when it exploded violently and left the nearby town contaminated.